I don't do introductions. I just get straight to the point. Yeah, today's subject, ideological state apparatus. And today we're going to be covering two things that make up ideological state apparatus. First one being school, and the second one being church. So, without further ado, let's get to it. School. School enforces white supremacy. Yeah, especially in subjects like history. You'll find that from a very young age, at least for me at like sixth grade, right? Like 12, 13, schools taught us that colonialism was bad. You know, white people taking land, white people killing people, etc., etc. But there were also good things to come out of white supremacy. You know, things that indigenous people didn't have. Uh, Science, technology, medicine, and Christianity. So, as though they make it seem as though we never had an identity and world building of our own. We didn't have our fashion, our science, our technology, our math, our religions, our spiritual beliefs. We didn't have these according to white supremacy. Colonialism is what we needed. And by we, I mean indigenous people all around the world. Excuse the fly. So, yeah, we needed colonialism. And this, transferring over to today, means white supremacy is maintained. It means white people believe that they, no matter how bad or good they treat people, are necessary. Right? They believe they are necessary because the rest of us need guidance, which is absolute BS if you ask me. Not even ask me. I know it's BS, but nonetheless. White supremacy enforces this idea that white people are superior, i.e., supremacy, white supremacy. So, white supremacy, again, it enforces this idea that white people are superior, right? Because again, excuse the fly, back in the day, they came up with all these things that we needed, but today, because of what we were taught happened to our ancestors, we tend to believe that white people are the more classy people, the more intelligent people, you know, the people with structure in their life. This isn't something we are told. You'd get fired if you said that to a child. But still, these are things that are enforced into our brain. These are things that we are taught to think. Right? White people are superior, but they don't tell us directly. They say white people brought us civilization, and today white people still believe they can maintain that civilization whether we want it or ask for it or not. Second topic under school would be training wage slaves. Capitalism. In school. School essentially doesn't teach individualism or doesn't aim to teach individualism. It aims to create good workers, obedient ones. You're supposed to get smart, so you go to college. You're supposed to go to college so you can get good jobs. And once you have that good job, you're supposed to just be a wage slave. School doesn't teach us about unions. School doesn't teach us about democratically run workplaces. That's the word. Again, excuse the fucking fly. Anyway, they don't teach us about unions. They don't teach us about socially run workplaces. And they don't teach us about just how much these capitalists, these billionaires, these oligarchs, all these people that have billions and millions of dollars, rands, whatever the fuck you want to call it, these people make their money out of stealing from you. So that little 10, 20, 30, however many thousand rands you're making is not good enough. I say that because you make more in a day. You make more in a day in terms of the things you create, in terms of how much they're worth, than you get paid in a month. You get paid that little so you can barely afford things like rent and food, toiletries, etc., etc. So that you keep coming back to work so you can just maintain a living. This is control. They train you to be a wage slave and train you to not think it's a bad thing. It's just the way capitalism runs. It's just the way the system is. And this is the best system around. So comply or don't. But if you don't, you're going to suffer most likely. Homelessness, crime, sex work. That's what you're going to probably fall into. These undignifying and dangerous situations just to get money. So wouldn't you rather be a wage slave? Anyway, second item on the agenda, church. Now, I don't want to speak on anybody else's religion. I just want to speak about the religion that I had to practice. I say had because I'm an atheist now. But yeah, Christianity, for example. So, ideologically, they bash this idea of patriarchy being okay. And I'll give you an example. They tell people, especially women, how to dress. They tell women, submit to your man. They tell women all these things that men are in control. Men are supposed to punish you for your mistakes, etc., etc. And that women have roles, right? But we'll get to that later. Also, misogyny. Misogyny is taught in church. You are taught to hate the woman or the women who express themselves in a way that God doesn't like. So if a woman dresses a little short, a little too tightly, a woman that's just proud of her body and wants to show off the fact that she's proud of her body and doesn't fall in line with the church's ideals, you are taught to hate this woman. You are taught to be misogynistic to this woman. Right? I mean, God doesn't straight up say it, but the culture created around these women defying God's rules and God's law are treated horribly. These Christians, so to say, won't bat an eye at the idea of calling women all sorts of tramps and hoes and whores and whatever you want. Right? So, misogynistic language. And for some men, you have things like femicide and rape because they hate these women for whatever reason. But they hate these women. And they are taught that it's okay to hate these women via the church. Second last item on the agenda is sexism. Sexism doesn't just apply to women, it applies to men too, but it mostly targets women in a negative way. One of these an example is quote unquote, I can't remember the full verse because I haven't read the Bible in a while, but basically it implies that you're supposed to be fruitful and prosper. And who's supposed to give birth? Women. That's a gender role. Sexism basically just boils down to gender roles. Women are supposed to have 9 of your kids. 9. Who's pushing these children out of their vagina? Who's carrying these children in their wombs? Who has to deal with the scrutiny of a stillborn or a premature baby or whatever? It's the woman. And that's just an example. So yeah, women are told to fit in certain roles, otherwise they're not serving God. And that is sexism. Roles that don't apply to men, right? So these women are not supposed to express themselves in a way that doesn't fit neatly into a particular box specifically made for women according to the church, according to the religion. And lastly, we have queerphobia. People go back and forth about what the Bible really means when it comes to saying things like, quote, man shall not lay with man. But the Bible has other verses and quotes, whatever you want to call them, about queerphobia. Right? The church enforces queerphobia. A man is supposed to end up with a woman, and that is it. Trans people are not supposed to exist. Lesbians are not supposed to exist. Women should be serving men, including sexually. Men are supposed to be serving women, including sexually. So queerphobia, definitely taught in the church. And again, these things aren't just things that are taught. These are ideological state apparatuses. These are things that create culture because of what you were taught. They create a culture of queerphobia, sexism, misogyny, patriarchy, wage slavery, white supremacy. They create cultures that make it okay to be okay with these hierarchical standards. Patriarchy means queer people at the bottom, women, then like street men. That's a hierarchical structure. Right? And white supremacy, also hierarchical. White people at the top, everybody else at the bottom. So yeah, I hope you learned something today. And if you didn't, Google. You can try leftism training. Right? Just read certain books by leftists, Marxists, Leninists, Maoists, especially Frederick Engels. And yeah, bye.